Let's try this. See if this does the trick. Let me know if that does anything. If you can comment. Okay, yes, perfect. Beautiful. Don't know why it was being funny for us. If you guys can let me know over on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're joining from. I'm hoping that the audio is working for everyone. You can hear and see me. We have a good lecture lined up for today, really focusing in on our pre-nursing anatomy here. Um, I've been doing these pre-nursing lectures in little parts because, we don't want to sit here and listen to me talk for too long, and anatomy is a lot to go over, of course. So we are looking at kind of two systems at a time. Today we're jumping into muscular and skeletal. So go ahead and drop a thumbs up for me if you are ready for me to jump in and get started. I think we've worked out all the kinks with the volume. Thanks for letting me know. But give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go. We'll get into our anatomy and physiology for today. And I do want to say before we start, I am not expecting you guys to be like the end all be all experts of anything by the end of our lecture, right? We want to focus on the high yield, high impact. What do you need to know for your pre-nursing exams, right? That's what we're here for today. And that's starting out, we're going to go one system at a time. We're going to look at the muscular system. So to kick us off, we got to kind of zoom in and look at all the different types of muscles that we have. There's three big broad buckets here: smooth, cardiac, and skeletal muscle. So we'll start out with smooth here. This is our involuntary muscle, okay? It is not striated, so there's not like stripes going down it, which is why we call it smooth. And it's found, think, in places that we don't control: your eyes, your skin, your reproductive tract, the walls of your internal organs, like the stomach, the passageway that blood vessels go through. All of these have muscles to help us constrict, dilate, make bigger, smaller, to help with peristalsis in the GI tract, but we don't control that, right? There's nothing that I do that I'm like, hey, stomach, contract. It just does it on its own. So that's what we mean by involuntary. It moves without you doing anything. Cardiac muscle is our second type, and it is involuntary as well. The difference here is that it's striated. So you guys see those little stripes that we have going on here? Let me get my little cursor going up. You guys see that? There's like stripes going across. Those are the striations. So that's what we mean by this muscle is striated. And cardiac muscle found only in the heart. It's going to contract and relax as part of that cardiac cycle to make the heart pump and move blood forward. So cardiac, involuntary, and striated, which leaves our last type of muscle for what we're really going to spend the most time today on: skeletal muscle. Again, striated. So you see it's got the stripes here when we zoom in, but this is the voluntary muscle. This is your bicep, your tricep, your quads, your glutes, all the muscles that you like already know the names of, that is strong and helps us move our body, okay? So recap here, we got three types of muscles: smooth muscle, involuntary, no striations. Cardiac muscle, involuntary again, we don't tell our heart to beat, but it is striated. And lastly, that skeletal muscle, voluntary, and it is striated. So check in with me here. Tell me which type of muscle is involved with peristalsis. Give me your answer in the comments, chat. Let me know what type of muscle is involved in peristalsis. All right, good job, Zaria. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I like it. You got it. Yep, those of you who answered, it is A, absolutely, that smooth muscle. Doesn't really have the striations. It's involuntary. Remind me what peristalsis is? It's that movement in the GI tract that moves our food forward. Involuntary, we don't have anything to do with that, right? So that's smooth muscle there. Okay. Like I said, we're going to spend most of our time today on skeletal muscle as we really connect the skeletal to the muscular system. So these skeletal muscles, we have over 700 of them. Okay. They make up almost half of our body weight, and we group them based on where they are located, their shape, and how big they are. Most of them are attached to bones. Why? Because they're going to kind of act as a lever to pull on our bone and help us actually move our body. We attach muscle to bone with something called a tendon. Okay, so that's this little part right here. We've got this nice muscle. The bone is here, and the attachment is the tendon. How do those muscles then pull on that tendon to move the bone? They have to contract or shorten. It's all about the size, okay? The muscle is big, it contracts to get smaller, and that pulls on the tendon and actually moves the bone. How does the muscle shorten, get smaller, contract? With the movement of actin and myosin inside what I call the structural unit of a muscle cell, which is a sarcomere. So right here, look, we've got a sarcomere. This is a nice little diagram here. And then we've got some filaments. These filaments, actin and myosin. These are going to slide past each other so that the muscle shortens or contracts. And that's ultimately how our skeletal muscles are going to work. So check in with me here. What is the function of a tendon? Go ahead and put your comments. What is the function of a tendon? Nice. Good job. You guys are on it. It is B, attaching that muscle to bone, okay? Now, when we get into the skeletal system, we'll also look at a ligament, and we get those confused oftentimes. Ligaments connect bone to bone. Tendons, they are what attach the muscle to bone. Okay. And remember, they do that to get us moving. If I want to, lift up my coffee cup here, I've got to activate muscles all throughout my arm. I'm choosing to do that. But those muscles need to pull on the tendon to move them. So this requires energy. We have to have ATP to actually fuel those cells in that little sarcomere and tell our filaments to shorten. So remember, actin, myosin. They are going to shorten, go next to each other, and form cross bridges when they contract. They go closer, they cross over, we get shorter, we contract. Then, when we need to relax and like set our coffee cup down or whatever, the myosin and actin unbind from that crossy cross that they did. They get longer and they relax. All right, contract, relax, contract, relax. It all comes down to the actin and the myosin, those filaments. So tell me, when the muscle contracts, myosin functions by what? Does it form a cross bridge with a sarcomere, bind tightly with a sarcomere, form a cross bridge with actin, or release actin from cross bridges? During contraction, that's your key word here. This is a tough question. Lots of detailed anatomy here. What do we think? Put our comments here. Let us know. All right, perfect. This is tough. So the right answer is C. Myosin forms a cross bridge with actin. I want to go back to that diagram to make sure you see it again, because really, it's hard without being able to visualize it, okay? Actin and myosin are these lines. You'll hear them called filaments. When we contract, they slide past each other and form a cross bridge. When we relax, they break that bind and slide apart. So actin and myosin, contract, relax. This whole unit together is called a sarcomere. So when we looked at forming a cross bridge with the sarcomere or binding to the sarcomere, those were incorrect. We were using the wrong term there. Sarcomere is that unit that contains the actin and the myosin. Contract, relax. Okay, so let's actually look at these groups of muscles. I am not going to read these whole diagrams to you. We're going to look at them overall as a group. It is smart for you to go make flashcards of these major muscles. Are you going to know 700 muscles by the time you take your pre-nursing test? Absolutely not. That is super silly. I don't want you to waste your time. In this presentation, I've highlighted the major muscles within their groups to make it a little easier to study. These are the ones I want you to make flashcards on, okay? For example, the rectus abdominis, the obliques, the pectoralis major, your deltoid, your trapezius. These are major abdominal muscles that we'll see some examples of some questions. If you know where they're located, that's going to help you get a lot of these exam questions right. So same things here with the limbs. Some of these you guys already know. You've got like your bicep, your tricep, and your forearm here, your extensors. You guys know the gluteus. Down in the calf, there are a few that I probably wouldn't have known before I studied for these exams, like the soleus and the gastrocnemius. Those are major muscles on the calf. So again, are you going to memorize 700 muscles? No, that's crazy. But if you make flashcards on these major groups, it'll help you with exam questions like this. You have a patient complaining of pain in the hip. Which muscle might cause the discomfort? Anybody want to take a crack at it? You haven't had time to study every muscle yet, so you might not know for sure. All right, Zaria, I see you. Nice job. Okay. So they're just looking at, hey, do they know generally what muscle is located in the hip? Anna, you're on it. Yes, you guys, I'm impressed. External oblique, okay? We know that's abdomen right here. It plugs into the hip. Rectus abdominis, on the belly, not anything with the hip. Soleus, calf, temporalis, forehead. So we just need to know basically where these muscles are located, all right? I'll flip around. Let's look on the back side and give you some others that I think you should make flashcards on. We talked about deltoid and trapezius, tricep, latissimus dorsi wraps around to the back here. So huge muscle. That's a good one to make a flashcard on. And then on our legs, we talked a little bit about the gluteus. The vastus lateralis is another really big one. Hip region, and we use that one for some medication administration. So kind of looking further into your nursing, that's going to be one to know. And then we talked on those calves, the gastrocnemius, the soleus. So again, are you going to memorize them all? Nah, I don't care about that. But use these notes, make some flashcards on the big ones. That's going to help you out a lot. I want to show you where to get the notes. Obviously, they're not attached to the free webinar, but you can get them on archerreview.com. So if you want to make flashcards on these later, it's archerreview.com. You come to nursing, and then you come over here to the TEAS page, and I'm actually going to copy that over into your chats. So if you guys want to follow along with me and get these notes, feel free to do so. Always nice to have notes for the flashcards, right? So you can click Buy Now. It'll pop you down to the bottom. I really like SurePass because it bundles everything that you need together. If you just want practice questions or you just want videos, you can get that as well. But SurePass is going to combine everything. Questions, notes, videos, handouts, cheat sheets, all the things. It looks like this when you sign in. Just come over to your on-demand videos to actually get those notes. I always usually use the filters up here. So we're in science and anatomy and physiology. You can also use the search bar. So we're going to go for the muscular system right there. And then I'll just click on the paperclip. That's where I'm going to get the notes, okay? It's just a PDF. Pause this video. You guys don't want to watch that. and there they are. So you'll get some some additional case study questions, as well as all of the notes that we're looking at today. So again, I really want you to focus on looking at the big picture, make some flashcards about the major muscles, but don't stress about the details. Don't get too in the weeds trying to memorize 700 muscles. That's a whole lot. Yeah. Any questions about finding those notes, anything with the muscular system before we make our way into the skeletal system? Any muscular system questions? Okay. I'll make sure to hang on at the end if we do have any, type them in your chats, your comments, let me know anywhere. But it's time to kind of plug in what those muscles are attached to. Remember, our muscles attached to tendons, to bones, so we can actually move our body. Just like we have types of muscles, we've got types of bones, 4 major types, in fact. The long bones, like your femur, that are longer than wide. Your short bones, which are more, kind of square, like our tiny bones in our fingers and toes. Our flat bones, which are thin, flat like a pancake, and are mainly there for protecting our vital organs. So things like the bones in our head, like our frontal bone or our sternum, they're flat like a pancake, and they're really like protecting what's underneath them. And then some bones kind of don't fit into one of these categories, like our vertebrae. They're very irregularly shaped, so we call those irregular bones. We're going to look first at long bones, though, because in my opinion, these have the most interesting anatomy, and there are some terms that you definitely see pop up on those pre-nursing exams. Now, these bones are most of our limbs. So femur, tibia, humerus, ulna, radius, these are all long bones. And we have 2 types of marrow inside the bone. So first of all, looking at the structure of the bone, you see how they're longer than they are wide, so they have this long shaft. That's called the diaphysis. Then at the ends, they have the epiphysis. And we call these distal versus proximal based on their location to the center of the body. So the closer I come to the center is proximal. This is the proximal end because that femur attaches to the hip there. And then this is the distal end going towards the knee. So epiphysis, diaphysis. All right, now let's zoom inside that diaphysis. You see that yellow stuff there? That's your yellow bone marrow sitting inside kind of a hollow carve out in the middle called our medullary cavity. What do we have yellow bone marrow for? When you see yellow, think fat. It is storing lipids for us, and that is in that diaphysis. So then coming up to the epiphysis here, this is our spongy bone. We have something called the epiphyseal line, which is where the growth plate closes. Obviously, we're not born with a femur as long as it will be when we grow up. It gets longer and longer and longer. And that little segment there at that epiphyseal line is the growth plate where we're growing longer, the shaft's getting longer and longer. And then when we stop getting taller, it closes off and we've got that epiphyseal line, okay? We've got cartilage at the end where these bones connect and plug into joints. And then kind of that middle part connecting the epiphysis to the diaphysis is known as the metaphysis, all right? A lot of physises. So yellow marrow here, lipids, red marrow up here, and that is where we make blood cells, okay? I really care a lot about our red bone marrow because without it, I'm not going to get blood cells, white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets. Bone marrow is so important for our hematological system. And it's up here in this metaphysis, epiphysis, spongy bone. That's where the red marrow lives. Yellow stores lipids. That's in the diaphysis, okay? So check in with me. I just gave you a lot of bone information. Tell me which of the following statements about long bones is correct. Do long bones primarily only contain red bone marrow? Do the diaphysis of long bones contain yellow marrow with short lipids? The epithelial line is responsible for producing new bone cells, or the metaphysis is the site of the red marrow storage. Which one? Which one? Tell me what is correct. Good. Drop it in your comments there. Love to see it. Good job. There's two here that we're going to be able to narrow it down to. So I'm thinking most of you are probably thinking B or D, right? You know, long bones, they don't only contain red bone marrow. You guys know we talked about the yellow bone marrow, so I'm assuming you crossed that one out pretty good. B, the diaphysis contains yellow marrow. That sounds good, right? You saw that yellow marrow in the center where that shaft was, so you should be thinking good. The epithelial line is responsible for producing new blood cells. No, remember that's where the growth plate was closing. That's not where making new blood cells. That's where red marrow makes blood cells. And then the metaphysis is the site of the red marrow storage. Ooh, that kind of sounds like it might almost be right, because when we look back here, we've got this red bone marrow. It's primarily in the epiphysis. It's at the end. So why don't you think end red marrow? So that D was a really tricky distractor. The correct answer was B. Yellow marrow stores lipids in that diaphysis, in that shaft of the long bone. Okay. But we saw that there were different types of bone. So let's dive into the next one, which has some really cool, intricate anatomy at the cellular level. Compact bone. This is the dense outer layer of bone. It covers the surface, except at joints. That there we've got cartilage up in joints, but other than that, in the shaft, in that diaphysis, in that metaphysis, we have this outer dense layer called the periosteum, and it's made of this compact bone. So you can kind of see, zooming out here, here's our whole long bone, and we've got this covering on the outside, that periosteum. So we're zooming in here to look at what is the structure of this compact bone. Well, the first thing are these osteons. That is these circle structures that you see. They're tightly packed. You can think of them as a cylinder. And an osteon is the functional unit of bone. They facilitate strength and they make it durable. If we didn't have osteons, our bones would be falling apart, okay? So there's these circles right here. Now, we see that there's some kind of stuff in between because, you know, circles, they can't all be mushed together. So in between these osteons, we have the matrix. It fills up the space between osteons, and it has minerals, calcium. It has fiber, collagen. That makes it durable, but it also gives it a little bit of flexibility. So, you know, when we jump up and down, we don't just, boom, break our bones. So let's zoom in here. Here's one osteon, okay? That circle is the osteon. Right there in the middle, we've got a gap. This is called the Haversian canal. It's like a central canal that runs right through the middle. Why? Because we need blood vessels and nerves in our bones. And we've got to have a space for those to plug in, like plugging in our electrical or our plumbing, yeah? So we've got our circular osteon with a hole in the middle for our plumbing. We bring in blood vessels so we can get nutrients, nerves, remove waste, all that jazz. Now, what is this osteon made up of? It's the functional unit, but all the cells are called osteocytes. They are bone cells. They sit in that compact bone. They help maintain and repair it. Okay, but there's some space between osteons, okay, or osteocytes. They're kind of the purple right there. Osteocyte, osteocyte, osteocyte. They're in one big osteon. They have that Haversian canal in the middle. All throughout here, where you see these little cave-like spaces that are scattered through, these are lacunae, cave-like spaces that are kind of scattered throughout and give it that flexibility. So check in with me here. Lots of structures, lots of names coming your way. Which structures in compact bone are responsible for carrying blood vessels and nerves through the center of an osteon? What do you think? Pop it in your comments. Let me know you're with me. Tell me what you think. Nice. Okay. Yes, that's the Haversian canal. Remember, the periosteum is that outer layer, the Haversian canal. That is our piping going through the center of the osteon so we can carry blood vessels. We can carry blood vessels, nerves, all those things into our bone tissue. All right. So now we've looked at big bones. We've got a little bit smaller about the diaphysis, the epiphysis, all those structures of the big bones. We zoomed into that functional unit. We saw the osteon. Now, one last layer. We have to look at the actual cells because bones actually form new bone cells. They do that with a cell type called osteoblasts. All right, so you can think osteo, bone, blasts. I'm blasting out new bone cell. I'm making new bones. These are mononucleated. They have one nucleus. This is your osteoblast. As I make new bone, that also means I have to recycle the old stuff. Otherwise, we would just be like growing bunches of bones all the time. We'd have more bones and more bones than we could ever handle. The osteoclasts, they are what are going to break down that old bone and keep it in balance so we get the good new stuff. They are multinucleated. See, they got 4 nuclei right here. Osteoclasts break down old bone, osteoblasts build up new bone. This process is called remodeling. It's the constant cycling of bone formation with the blasts and resorption with the clasts. And that lets our skeletal system stay fresh, adapt to stress, repair itself. Another really important thing, maintain mineral balance. The osteoclasts, you know, those big multinucleated, they're dissolving the matrix that has all those minerals in it. One of those minerals is calcium. Our blood would not have enough calcium if the osteoclasts weren't breaking down old bone and releasing calcium into the blood. And if the osteoblasts weren't there synthesizing and secreting more bone matrix, our bones would age, decay, and break down far too early. So they are responsible for bone formation. They synthesize collagen, calcium, other proteins that form that nice, flexible, but durable matrix. Interestingly, osteoblasts, very active when we're growing. We're making our femurs longer. That diaphysis is getting longer. More blast activity. Later in life, we're done growing. More osteoclast activity. If we have too many osteoclasts breaking our bones down, we could be prone to osteoporosis, weak and brittle bones. Okay? So these two things have to work together. Osteoblasts, they make more bone cells. Osteoclasts, they break down those bone cells, bone formation. That's the whole situation. So check in with me. Which statement correctly describes the function of osteoclasts? All right, put your comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Okay, I'm getting some D, some C. Drop your comments. Let us know. Okay, D and C predominantly. So let's go through it. Let's go top to bottom here. Osteoclasts deposit calcium and build new bone tissue. Nope, we've got that backward. Think blasts, they blast out new bone tissue. Okay, that's the blast. Osteoclasts maintain bone density by producing collagen fibers. Again, backwards. The clasts, they are not producing collagen, producing calcium, maintaining density. They're the ones breaking it down. So I like this comment here from a student, C for crush. Our osteoclasts are crushing the bone. They're not producing it or building new. That's what the osteoblasts do. B for build, C for crush. Thanks for that memory trick. I love it. I'm going to use that. So coming down here now, C, osteoclasts break down to make space for new bone? Yes, C is absolutely our correct answer. Osteoclasts stimulate osteoblasts to increase bone formation? Nope, they are about crushing, breaking down that old bone, okay? Because we want to build up that new stuff. That's what the osteoblasts do. So let's zoom out. We went way microscopic looking at the tiny little bone cells. I'm going to give you the same overarching advice about the names of all these bones. Are you guys going to memorize every single bone in the human body? Maybe you are. I mean, I will be very impressed if you do. Shout out to you if you memorize all the bones. I never spent my time memorizing all the bones. I have a doctorate in nursing practice. I have still never memorized all the bones. I have never needed to know that in my life. For our pre-nursing exams to help get you guys into nursing school, right? These are the major bones, the major groups that I recommend you make flashcards for, okay? So go to the website, get that package of Short Pass where you have the videos and the notes and the Q bank. Get these notes and make flashcards on these bones, okay? Hopefully it will save you a headache. You'll have a general idea of the major bones and where they're located. Okay, the last thing I want to go through are where these bones come together. That's called a joint. Bones unite with other bones at joints. You might also hear this called an articulation. And they connect with ligaments. Remember, tendons go muscles to bone, and ligaments connect our bones together. Now, those surfaces are covered in cartilage to help protect them, as well as synovial fluid so that they're lubricated and they can move easily. I think of synovial fluid like WD-40. We've got, something rusty, it's creaky, it's not wanting to move. You're going to put some synovial fluid in there so that that joint can move easily, okay? So all bones, except one specific bone, are connected to other bones, okay? The only bone that has this special exception is called the hyoid bone. It is what supports our tongue, and it is held in place by two muscles. Other than that, your elbow, your shoulder, your arms, your legs, every single bone connects to another bone, okay? I think that's where that song, like the head bone's connected to the neck bone, like they're all connected, one skeleton, okay? So lots and lots of joints in our body. Let's see, check in with me here. Which statements about synovial joints are true? Synovial fluid, lubricate that joint, bone to bone. We've got our ligaments. Read through this. Tell me if you can get it. Give me your comment. What do we think? What do we think? Good. Okay, you guys did nice here. Absolutely. Synovial joints have those articulating surface. So in articulation, they come together, they articulate, covered in that cartilage, and contain synovial fluid for lubrication. That's that WD-40. And that's what's actually going to let our skeletal system move, okay? This is where it all comes together, folks. Our muscles connect to our bones with a tendon. The nervous system tells our muscle to contract. The actin and the myosin slide past each other, form cross bridges, and shorten. That pulls on the tendon and moves the bone. All right. We got the arm moving up. Remember, that's our voluntary motion, our voluntary movement. We decided to do that. That is how the skeletal system plugs in with the muscular system, and the nervous system tells it to move. That's that. So let's wrap it up. Let's make sure you guys understood this. I've got a quiz for you. What's the functional unit of a muscle? A actin, A myosin, B actin, a C myofibril, or D a sarcomere? Functional unit of a muscle. Throwing it back. We're integrating here. We're looking back at the muscular system. Functional unit. Go ahead and put it in the comments for me. All right, seeing some C, some D, some A, a little bit of everything. D is correct. Functional unit of muscle, sarcomere. That's that kind of like rectangle thing we looked at. Inside the sarcomere, we have our filaments, actin, myosin. The actin and myosin are what slide past each other to contract and then go back to normal to relax. That is the functional unit. The sarcomere contains all of that. So functional unit of a muscle, sarcomere. Does anyone remember the functional unit of a bone? Major brownie points if you can chat the functional unit of a bone. What is it? It starts with an O. I'll give you that hint, but drop it in the comments if you remember it. It's that osteon, right? That circle, that osteon that had the cells inside of it. Osteon, bone, sarcomere, muscle. Okay, next quiz question for you. Which of the following correctly describes the function of osteoblasts? Osteoblasts. We talked about the different osteoblasts, osteoclasts. What do the osteoblasts do? Okay, some people thinking B. Some people thinking C. It is B. It is B. Absolutely. Blasts build bone. They synthesize and secrete bone matrix. So they form, they build up that bone. Blasts don't break it down. That's the clasts. Osteoclasts crush, osteoblasts build. Okay. All right. Next question. The shortening of a muscle is directly related to what? Think contract. Contract. What's happening when the muscle contracts and shortens? Nice. Enya, Zaria, you've got it. Patricia, yes. Good job. A few more seconds here. Absolutely. You guys have all got it. B, actin, myosin. That's what contracts. They form those cross bridges. They get shorter. Muscle pulls on tendon, moves bone. You guys are on it. I love it. Okay, last question for today. Which of the following matches the bone type with its example? Okay, I'm throwing it out there, seeing what you already know. You guys are going to go back, get the notes, and make flashcards for these bones. But can you match the bone type with any of these? Okay, Gucci, you know it. You're on it. Zaria's on it. I like to see it. Anya, yes. Short bone, carpal. Absolutely. Those are our bones in our finger. They're kind of the same length as width. Those are short bones. Flat bones are like our skull, our sternum, not the vertebrae. Vertebrae are irregular. They're crazy shapes. No, don't fit into any category. Femur, that's not irregular. That is one of our long bones, okay? And patella, not a long bone. That's your kneecap, okay? That's a short bone. So there you go. That is the skeletal and the muscular system. That's what I've got for you guys today. I'm going to put up this slide that has all the resources that we talked about today. because I want to make sure that you guys are able to contact us with any questions if I left anything off. I'm going to put our email in the chats here. This email goes to us, not to a support team. So if you've got any questions about TEAS, HESI, getting into nursing school, what you should or shouldn't study, use that email, okay? We will always answer you and make sure that you have whatever resources you need to help you get into nursing school. Whether you need a Q bank, you need some videos. Again, I love the SurePass because it just bundles everything together and it's, only about 30 bucks. You can scan to get that. And we do these free webinars all the time. So go over to our website. I will drop the link for that again. And you can see all of those webinars. You can join us several times a week and, just come hang out, get some pre-nursing stuff. So question here, do you have videos on YouTube of past videos? We do. Absolutely, we do. You guys can head over to our YouTube channel. Just search Archer Review and it'll pop right up. There are different channels. We'll just go look at it. Let's go to our YouTube. See what pulls up here. Here's our webinar streaming now, right? But if we go over to our studio, I'll just kind of show you our page because I want to show you where our channel for pre-nursing is, right? So if you click on playlists over on YouTube, you'll see we've got nursing clinical skills, nursing school lectures, certifications like CCRN, how to use the Archer product. You're going to want to come over to the Archer TEAS. That is where all of these lectures are going to be saved. So you can actually just watch through whatever you would like. T7 exam review lectures. Pause this, but it'll give you reading, English, math, science, all the things. So that's where you can find it there. I'll leave this up here. See if we get any other questions popping up. Is this to help with RN program or PN? So this is to help you get into nursing school, pre-nursing, entrance exams, TEAS, HESI, etc. We have resources for both RN and PN programs. archerreview.com. You will see all the things over there. So hopefully that is helpful. Respond here. And thank you. All right. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. Short and sweet. Hopefully it gave you what you need. We are going to be back next week with another A&P lecture. So make sure you are coming over to our site. And let me go back up here to webinars where you can see everything going on from a reading, English, science. There's going to be so many webinars and you can join them all for free. So come over here to join. Let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you guys next time.